Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I'm a divorce valuation expert and mediator in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, we'll discuss why valuation expert opinions differ and the value of a rebuttal expert with Matt Stelzman, an expert in forensic, litigation, and valuation work in Chattanooga, Tennessee, who also serves clients in Atlanta and around the country. Can you kind of tell us a little bit more about like rebuttal reports, rebuttal witnesses, the rebuttal process, and how a client might benefit from this type of service? Because I think we sometimes do it automatically in a case, but there is a more formal way that you can get an expert involved if maybe, and this is sometimes in probably commercial litigation that you'll see it more, that you'll have a rebuttal report or commercial damages case or something like that. So maybe you could walk us through this.
Sure. So on rebuttal experts, there's really two categories for experts that I'm going to talk about. And so you've got your testifying expert, which is where the attorney engages you to be the person that comes up with the damages amount, and you get up and testify, and the other side knows that you're involved, and this, that, and the other. The other one is a consulting expert, and that's where the attorney engages you, but he doesn't need to divulge that information to the other side. So he can use you to consult and ask questions to, and other things, and maybe do calculations in the background that they can use in court, or any instance that they need someone who knows what they're talking about, but they don't want to reveal your identity yet. So those are the two areas that you're looking at in terms of testimony work for experts. So when it comes to rebuttal reports, you're probably going to be at least if you're writing a report, you're probably going to be a testifying expert. There are instances where they can use you as a consulting expert, which involves questions and things like that, and we'll get to that here in a second. So I guess what I'm going to be talking about first is the role of a rebuttal expert if you are a testifying expert. So the way it usually goes is you get you present your report by a certain deadline. The other side submits their report, and you do the awkward trade-off, like in a parking lot somewhere, or not really, but it's a trade-off of reports, and so you get theirs, and you have a certain amount of time to read over it. So they present it to you as their expert okay, so we received this report, we don't know what to do with it, can you read it and tell us what's wrong with it? So as an expert, you take that report, you read through it, and you make some notes, whether it's a valuation or some type of litigation damages report. So to me, there are certain areas or categories that an expert or a rebuttal expert plays. Overall, your objective is to highlight the errors in the report. So you read over the report, you come up with what the errors are that you find, and you make notes of those. The second area is to provide an opposing view. So, that's different than reading over their report and highlighting where they messed up. You take it one step further and you say, okay, this is where they messed up, and this is what I would have done. So essentially, you're almost writing another report, but it's based upon their report. So you're saying, here are the items that they messed up on. I would have done X, Y, and Z. And maybe you come out to a resulting value, an ending value, maybe you don't. But you're just providing alternatives for the attorney to use when asking questions to their expert. One thing I like to do when I do rebuttal reports is I like to narrow the scope to only what I disagree with. So what I don't want to do is go through and talk about their report in every aspect, because what that does is that just creates another whole report for the judge to read. Again, my objective in providing these reports is to provide something that the judge can take with them, and then that way they can read my opinion later. I'm not on the stand thinking on the fly of what my response was, and maybe I got everything out that I wanted to get out, but maybe I didn't. In these instances, I'm sitting in my office, I can go through it, I can write it out, I can have other people read it. Does this make sense? If it doesn't, how do we reword it to say what I want it to say? So you have an environment which works well for you as a rebuttal expert to get your point across as to what you want to say. So when I sit down at one of these, I go through, I read it all, I mark what I agree with, I mark what I disagree with. If there are certain areas that I agree with, there's two positions I might take. One, I just completely ignore it. The other one is to say that I agree with it. So if I see, hey, this is what the information that they looked at, this is the number they came out with, and I'm like you said earlier, I can't really disagree with that. I'll write in there, I'll go through and say, I looked at the same information, double checked it, I agree. What that does is that allows the judge to see that you're not being combative on purpose. You're not just going after someone for the sake of going after them. So if you can say, hey, this is an area I agree with, this is an area I agree with, you have the appearance of being considerate of what other people are doing and open-mindedness. And then what I do is I have the sections of the parts that I agree with, and they can choose to skip right over that when he's reading the report. And then I get into the areas that I disagree with. I'll go through, I'll say I disagree with it, and I will get down specifics as to how I would have calculated it. And I'm just thinking of 3 recent rebuttals that I did a couple weeks ago, where we just get into the minute details of why theirs is wrong and why ours is correct. So I think there's strength in writing a report that says I agree with these areas and I disagree with these other areas. The second area that I want to talk about is attorney prep. So again, this kind of leads back to the you don't know what you don't know. A lot of the times attorneys need preparation on these reports, and they don't even know that they need it. So any kind of questions that you can provide based upon the report. So there was an example. There's an attorney that I worked with. I'd never worked with him before. We get a call from him. Hey, I've got this report. Can you look over it? Looked over it, wrote all the questions out of the problems that I saw. And then under those questions, I wrote, if they say yes, this is a follow-up question. If they say no, this is a follow-up question. So what I was doing was laying out a roadmap for them to go through and basically tear apart the other side. Now, I was a consulting expert, never had to get up there and do anything because all I did was write him questions. But to this day, every time that I work with this attorney, when his client's in the room, he's like, oh, remember that time when I hired you and you wrote all this questions? He's like, man, that was awesome. We tore that guy apart. So providing any kind of questions to the attorneys, it adds a lot of value, and it doesn't really take a lot of time to do. So that might be one area where you say, hey, attorney, I also provide this service in addition to my typical valuation or litigation services that just I consult with you and write up questions for you to ask while you're in court, and it's worked great. And then one last area that you can help with them is providing them database material. So you get a valuation and they're like, oh, we're comfortable with this. Oh, okay, so you're comfortable with it, but do you have access to those databases where they pulled their marketability information from? Well, no, I don't have that. Do you have access to the transactions that he used in the marketability approach? Well, no, I don't have those. Would you be surprised if I pulled all the transactions that he said he pulled, and he's using 10 of them? What if I told you there were 50 and he eliminated 40 of them and only used 10? Would that be a value to you? Well, yeah, that might be a value. Now you can ask him why he eliminated the other 40. So we as professionals have access to these databases and they don't. So again, that's another place that you can add value by just providing them a printout of that information.